Back here with Coach Mangini. Rams looking to take down a New England Patriots team making its third straight trip to the Super Bowl. To do that, they hope to have Todd Gurley at full strength, something he seemingly wasn't during the NFC Championship game. Gurley says his knee is fine. Patriots linebacker Dante Hightower says he's expecting a lot of Gurley in the Super Bowl game plan. All right, Coach, what should the Patriots expect to see out of Gurley?
Yeah, I would imagine there's going to be a lot of Gurley as well. And looking back at last game, I give him a lot of credit because he didn't get to play very much, and he seemed to handle it very well. Now, if they had lost the game, I don't think he would have handled it as he did. And I give the Rams credit for being willing to go with the hot hand, and that's a hard thing to do. Now, that being said, Gurley was very productive in the Dallas game. He averaged 7.2 yards a carry all season long. You're talking about a guy with over 250 carries and almost 5 yards a carry. They're going to give him plenty of Gurley, and he's explosive, and he's hard to deal with. And if they get him going, it's going to open up everything else with that offense. This is an offense built on play action, off the running game, move the pocket plays. They get him going, it'll open up tremendously.
Coach, there's a lot of people trying to break down this Rams-Patriot matchup compared to the greatest show on turf and how they were able to slow down the Rams. Nick had mentioned before the game plan they had with Marshall Faulk. Can you share with us the difference in what New England in trying to stop this Rams team compared to the previous game plan in stopping that great Rams team with Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk, Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce?
Well, if they had just run the ball more consistently against us in the first
That's
game,
what people forget. They dared them. New England dared them to run the football. That's the major difference between Todd Gurley and what he presents compared to Marshall Faulk. And let's not forget Mike Martz, the offensive coordinator. It was a challenge of personalities, not just style.
On that. If they had given the ball to Marshall Faulk on a consistent basis, we wouldn't have been able to play as much split safety as we did. So split safety means you have two safeties deep. We rolled up our corners. We beat up their wide receivers, but they wouldn't commit to the running game, which was to our advantage. So it allowed us to stay in the thing that gave us the best chance to be successful. And with this situation, their running game, they've got a lot of close split receivers near the offensive line, and they build off of that. There's shifts, and there's motions, and there's play action passes that are deep throws, but the running game has to work for that to be effective. So there needs to be a willingness, even if it doesn't work early, even if you're not getting big numbers, even if he doesn't hit a big play early, to stay with it, because it'll in to bring some more 8-man in the box, bring a safety down.
The difference what Coach is talking about in having split safeties and playing cover 2 or combination coverage is typically if you have one high safety, you can have a safety support in the running game. So if you have one high safety, you can play man-to-man on the outside. There's less combination coverages, but that other guy is inserted into the box for run support. So typically you can have 7 or 8 to be able to take away the running game. Huge difference in what they're facing with Todd Gurley compared to the last Rams.
And did that have to do with your guys' success as far as Marshall Faulk catching the ball as well? Is that was the alignment that gave you guys the best chance to deal with him as a receiver?
Well, with Marshall Faulk, we were going to beat him up. I mean, we were going to beat up that whole team. Like that was our. We couldn't run with him. We had to fight. We had to fight him, and that's what we did. And it got really physical. And then the rules changed a little bit later on because of the way that we were physical with them, the Colts and everybody else. And I think to some degree you're going to see an element of that this week too. You're going to see those wide receivers. You want to bring everybody in tight? Expect those outside linebackers to get up and blow those guys up, and see how much those receivers want to stay in there when it gets real noisy with a bunch of bigger guys.
Are we all going on the assumption that Todd Gurley is completely healthy now, and what happened in that last game was just because he was either having an off game or his knee was bothering him? And that being the case, how does C.J. Anderson factor into their game plan?
So to answer your first question, he dealt with it so well on the sideline. I thought he's got to be hurt. Like any healthy star player would be visibly angry that they're not being used in the NFC Championship game. But he wasn't listed on the injury report. He's now, again, not listed on the injury report. He is saying, and the team is saying, he's healthy. So I'm going to have to take them at his word and just give him enormous credit for being a healthy player that wasn't quite a healthy scratch in that game, but a healthy, lightly used player.
My excuse for it is because it's very misleading to see the information on the sideline. All I can take it as he missed a lot of football in the last month of the season. He was very, very healthy, Dallas game. But they had a bye week. So in doing that, in having that great productivity, you talked about 7 yards a carry, did he get banged up again in the Dallas game that he wasn't necessarily on the injury report, but he came into the game with New Orleans feeling not necessarily 100%. He gets in the game, makes a couple mistakes early. You could see the speed of the game seemed a little foreign to him. Now, at that point, because CJ had such a hot month, they decided to go with him. That, to me, him being a star player, how he dealt with it, I thought it was great. But it's hard to see that and be able to try to explain it to people. My only explanation is he got banged up again, and he didn't feel the confidence after dropping that first pass, which led to that interception and everything, and then dropping another pass on third down easily on a check down that he should have caught. So I was totally shocked that Todd Gurley wasn't more involved.
I was shocked too. And what the stat where he has 15 or more carries correlated to wins is pretty substantial and pretty compelling. To me, you need to give him 15 carries in the Super Bowl and give him a chance to be the player that he's been all season. And maybe it's a function of he did start with some really negative plays. Figure out what he does really well early and make sure you give him enough of that, the best of the best for him, so that he can start as quickly and as confidently as he possibly can. The last thing I'll say is it's easy to be gracious in victory. I think if the Rams had lost, this whole discussion would be different about why would they use CJ instead of Todd Gurley? How can you leave him on the bench? He averaged 7. Now, when you win, everybody's like, oh, yeah,
so
you know.
It worked well.
Slow clap, you know, great job.
But the other point you made earlier that we're going to reiterate all week long is the Rams pre-snap appear to have a very fancy, exotic offense. There's a lot of shifting. There's a lot of movement. Even after the snap, sometimes they fake jet sweeps. They want to run the football on you and beat you with play-action passes. Everything they do in mind around, yes, the head coach, but the abilities of number 30. Their star running back, the guy that everyone has to account for, and the guy that can make linebackers sink down in the play action and that can dictate fronts and coverages. So they need Gurley to look like Todd Gurley early and often, in my eyes, if they're going to be able to beat the Patriots. But
I believe the big reason why C.J. Anderson was able to be effective was they had the best offensive line in the playoffs. Last season, unheard of productivity and continuity. Coach always talks about continuity. 2017 regular season, offensive line starts all 16 games. The only NFL team this year to have the same starting offensive lineup every game. That's how you can have a backup running back come in the month of December and dominate. That's how you can have a backup running back, NFC Championship, on the road, all that crowd noise. That offensive line, if they are able to dominate New England, get up on those linebackers, create some creases where they can get into that secondary, that to me is the only path to victory for the LA Rams.
That and get a bunch of refs who are from Southern California. Coach, give us one more segment, all right? Coming up, will Tom Brady ever retire? Plus more on Anthony Davis.